I heard stories, of your deployment. And one of the things I heard that didn't surprise me, but it really made me proud to hear is not from you, not from anybody else in leadership. Was a soldier who said that he didn't have body armor, and they said, Lieutenant Colonel West, who's the battalion commander, gave me his body armor, so I had body armor. Took it off of himself and gave your body armor to another younger soldier, and that soldier ended up getting shot.
Yep.
With your body armor, and it saved his life.
That was my driver.
Yeah.
Sergeant Robert Delgado, who doesn't live too far away from here, on the other side of Sugarland, and not everyone had the sappy plates and everything. He had what we call the chicken vest. I'm sure you remember what the chicken vest was. And I said, Robert, Dale, I can't have you wearing that. So I took the chicken vest and gave him the sappy plate vest. And it was a night with a very, tough combat mission that we had gotten. There was a cache of the weapons and RPGs and everything that were hitting people going up the Highway 1, coming north out of Baghdad. And we got the information about the farmhouse complex where this was located. And so we went out on a raid operation. And on the way out, we stopped at like a rally point to, once again, break out the assault element, the security element. And we got hit, with some guys in a drive-by shooting. And Delgado actually was struck in the chest, but it ricocheted off and went through his arm. And I remember, I'll never forget, because he's like 2 feet or 3 feet away from me. And he's down there, blood splurting out of his arm. And I looked down and said, Dale, you're okay? He said, Dad, I can't believe some shot me. I said, you're going to be all right. But the thing is, he went back home for some convalescence, and he came back. And he had just had a brand new little baby boy. But he came back and told me, he said, this is where I'm supposed to be with my brothers in combat. And so that's what soldiering and being a Marine and being on the ground, that's what it's about. We fight for the men and women on to our left and to our right.
So, I mean, this deployment that you did, it was kind of highlighted through a few things. One of my favorite highlights is the interrogation that you did over this Iraqi detainee. And, you had some good press from it. You had some bad press from it. But to me, the bad press was something that I believe that every commander that cares about his troops and cares about the safety of his troops would have done. And so I applaud you for what was said that was good and bad. And I'd love you to share it if you don't mind sharing it, because I think people need to know about this, about you.
I'd have to go back and tell people why you make a decision like that. And that is because back in October of 1983, when I'm getting in the car to go out to my first duty assignment, which is artillery basic course at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, my dad, the old Army corporal, looks at me and he says, Lieutenant, you got to understand one thing. You must always take care of your troops. And that was a guiding principle for me. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about getting promoted. It wasn't about, accolades for myself. It was about, I've been put in charge of a group of individuals. I've been put in charge of the greatest treasure of the United States of America. It's young men, because at the time artillery was all male. So here I am. I'm in charge of 600, some odd troops there in Iraq, and deploying out of Fort Hood. It's still going to be Fort Hood. I don't care what they changed the name to.
What would they change it to?
Cavazos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It don't make no sense.
And when they changed Fort Bragg to Camp Liberty, right?
Yeah, and they don't even believe in liberty. So, but, 4th Infantry Division. And before you deploy, you have the deployment brief.
Right.
Where this is the last time really that the family members and everyone, they come in and they see their loved ones before they get ready to get on that airplane. And there was a father that came up to me after the deployment brief. Man broke down, tears in his eyes. And he looked at me and he said, please, promise me you'll do everything you can to bring my son home. I mean, that's gut-wrenching.
Yeah, it's just a responsibility.
It's a huge responsibility. And you're standing there in front of wives and sons and daughters and mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles, and you're the guy. And so the decision that I made in Iraq really did change my life. And I think that in all of our lives, God is going to give us a decisive point where this is whether he will determine if I can use you for something greater that I have for you. Maybe not what you want, because as you and I shared off camera, My mom always said, write your plans in pencil because God has an eraser. So here's a guy, battalion commander, my OER in combat, one of the top battalion commanders in the 4th Infantry Division, early promotion to colonel, select for brigadier general. And then I make a decision to go down there and, fire a pistol, into the air because this detainee was, balking. We had seen an uptick in a lot of the roadside bombs and attacks against our patrols. He was one of the Iraqi police officers, and the word was that he was leaking this to the Saddam Fedayeen and some of the other insurgents there. And we would detail 2 female interrogators. Now, you know about the Middle East.
Yeah.
That dog don't hunt.
No.
They have no respect for that.
They will not respect the female interrogators.
Absolutely. So I go down there and yes, it got rough. I mean, some of the soldiers pushed them around and everything like that. And I said, calm down, guys. And so I asked him, this is what we need to know.
So just to clarify, this individual, Houdani, what was his name? I forget his name, but
I forget.
But he has information that could cause injury or death to your troops.
Sure.
You're in the interrogators wouldn't suffice, so you go in to interrogate him.
I use the Southern psychological intimidation tactic, which is to try to get this guy to believe that I'll kill him, which I'm not. But you want people to believe that because you want to protect your guys. And so he kept stalling, not saying anything. I said, okay, well, it's late. We're done. I got to go out and prepare my guys for the next day because we were getting hit, the first or 2 patrols or whatever going out. And like I said, we had to share our patrol routes with the Iraqi police. And so, like I said, fired a warning shot up in the air out of my little service 9mm. He didn't say anything. And so then held him down, took the pistol, fired into a weapons clearing battle.
Like over his
barrel.
head?
Back over his head. And then he talked, he gave us some information. And I went and reported it to my commanding officer because I believe that you got to be open, transparent, and integrity is always the most important thing. Then about 2.5 months later, an investigation is opened up, and the brigadier general, who was the assistant division commander, he came down to talk to me, and I told him everything. I wrote out the statement. They took me out of command, and they charged me with things, and I was looking at 8 years in prison. And it was very hard because here you go from being 15 years of age and your dad telling you you're going to be the first officer in your family. And now you're at this pinnacle of being a battalion commander in combat. And all of a sudden, you're the bad guy. When you tried to do what your dad told you, which is you got to take care and protect your troops. When you looked at a father eyeball to eyeball, said, I will protect your son and bring him back home. And I just, got the Bible and got on my knees and prayed and said, Lord, your will be done. This is painful. It hurts. But I know that if I can make a stand through this, then, you'll be glorified. And so I will never forget. And I didn't realize how big of a thing this was back here in the States. But, we went through an Article 32 hearing, which is kind of like a civilian grand jury. And I was called to be on the stand. And I was asked, now that you see all that you've gone through, you've lost your command, you're looking at 8 years in prison at Fort Leavenworth, which will ruin the rest of your life. And they asked, would you do this again? And I said, if it's about the safety and the lives of my men, I'll go through hell with a gasoline can. Never thought anybody would recognize that. That's become one of these big quotes in history. But that's how I felt about it. And so the next thing you know, it got reduced down to the Article 15, which is non-judiciary punishment. I was charged $5,000. And after redeploying back from Iraq, I looked at the wife and said,
So you redeployed after?
Yeah, I redeployed after the whole incident and everything. That was December 2003. And spent some time at the 3 Corps headquarters, being the chief of current operations. And I talked to the wife, said, what do you want to do? Because her dad has served 24 years in the military, 2 combat tours in Vietnam. He's buried in Arlington National Cemetery. She screws up and marries another soldier. And so she's been drugged all over the place. She said, let's just take the time and be a family. Let's call it a day. And so I put in my retirement papers. And, honorable discharge, 22 years of service to this country, and I don't regret it.